Hey everybody, it's Neil from 2AF. Oh, hey Petey, what's going on? Anyway, I was going to wait a little while to do another one of these videos, but I realized that we were coming up on Pat Rogers' death, and I definitely would always want to say something about that. Pat Rogers, if you don't already know who he is, I won't talk a lot about his history here, but you won't have to go very far to look him up. I encourage you to do that. Very influential person in the firearms industry, as well as especially the training industry. Early on in my firearms career, I would go to training classes. Probably the first instructor I ever went to multiple times was Bill Jeans from Oregon Consulting, who was actually very friendly with Pat Rogers. Pat Rogers' training company was EAG, and so shortly after I would go to EAG carbine classes. All said and done, I don't know, I probably went to 7, 8, or 9 different Pat Rogers carbine classes, primarily here in Florida, although Blue Force Gear would host him at a range in South Carolina, and I would go to those classes as well for a couple times. In any case, in the beginning of every one of his classes, he would have a gear discussion, and in that gear discussion, he would talk about all of the failures and breakages that he would see on primarily commercial grade weaponry. For a long time, there were not very many commercially available guns that were being built to the same standards as military guns. And while that would very infrequently make itself apparent to a casual shooter or somebody just going to the range, you know, maybe regularly, but not a lot, when you would go to these classes, you would typically shoot 800, 1,000 rounds or so over the course of a day or two. And so that is a much bigger test of the weapon's longevity and durability. And you would see, Pat Rogers would see many failures in these classes, and he would document the failures. He had scrapbooks with photos of many of the failures. Pat always had a camera with him on the range, just before camera phones. So he would have documents of a lot of these failures, and he'd be able to talk about the failures and why they happened and what the difference was between this commercial made gun and maybe a gun that, and how that gun was not meeting a certain spec. So it wasn't a real big surprise when BCM came around. That was one of BCM's big goals, is to make commercially available guns that were meeting or exceeding the mil spec and the standards that we were hoping to get, but we're not getting at that time. So BCM came out. It wasn't a big surprise. Pat Rogers became affiliated with them, and they came out with an EAG carbine. Now, the EAG carbine was a 14.5-inch hammer forged mid-length standard weight barrel, had a 9-inch LaRue free float rail, came with a Troy Industries backup sight, Magpul stock, Tango down sling mount. That is probably the more well-known gun because it actually came out. In fact, I think BCM may even still make it. What I have here in front of me is the HS Carbine. And after Pat died, some of his guns came up for sale, and I purchased this one. This was number 47 from his rack. I don't really know what that number signifies other than he had all of his guns numbered. And this was the HS Carbine. It was made to be a lighter weight, probably more affordable and simpler version of the EAG carbine. Still uses that same 14.5-inch hammer forged mid-length barrel, but it's a lighter weight version. Has a pinned and welded battle comp. The guns that were supposed to go to production were going to have the BCM comp, but this one has the battle comp on there. This is the same muzzle device that was on most of the original EAG carbines. Also comes with the Magpul Mo handguard and grip. This is pre-M-LOK, so there was no such thing as M-LOK then, so this is the Mo version. The guns that were supposed to come production would have had the BCM grip, but this one has the Tango down grip, same grip that was on the original EAG carbine. The Magpul trigger guard, the Magpul CTR stock, the Magpul MBUS sight, the gunfighter charging handle from BCM, the Tango down, I can't remember the name of it, but this sling attachment. The sling attachment is something Pat said he really liked because he did not want to see consumers undo this castle nut and break the stake that was on there. It's not hard to torque and stake these, but the truth is most people don't do it. And that was another point of failure that he would frequently see on the commercial guns that were not torqued well, that were not staked, and so those would come loose and cause failures. So he liked this two-piece design that clamped over the receiver extension, and that would allow you to have a sling point. It's an ambidextrous sling point without having to undo your castle nut and break the factory stake on there. Came with his mag. Of course, the gun had the EAG logo on the front, and this is mag number 2804. In any case, I just wanted to talk about this gun that I had out of his collection and talk about Pat Rogers and how influential he was, not only to the firearms community and the training community, but to me personally as well. Like I said, those gear discussions kind of gave rise to the mantra I always had of no cheap crap. You know, we always try and sell better than average stuff to our consumers because we don't want to see them go into classes or matches or even just a range day and have a failure of something they trusted us to purchase. So we want the stuff that we get you to be about as reliable as you're going to be able to get, and that was definitely one of the things Pat Rogers was about. That's definitely one of the things BCM was about, and I picked that up from all the many classes that I went to, and it stuck with me this whole time. It's going to continue to stick with me into the future. So that's all I got for today. Remember Pat Rogers. He's a great instructor, and he was always super friendly with us. Pat, we miss you, and life is good. Again, it's Neil from 2AF.